Introduction to Gnosis, First Grade, Samael Aun Weor, 3rd edition. Preface. There are two bodies of doctrine, the doctrine of the eye and the doctrine of the heart. There is the eternal knowledge and internal or introspective, the intellectual or academic knowledge and knowledge consciousness or lived. The academic or intellectual knowledge serves for coexistence and for our livelihood. Introspective knowledge and conscientivo or conscience leads to divine knowledge is very important, because the knower must know himself. 5 external senses allow us the knowledge that 7 inmates called materialistic and let us know what is called esoteric or occult. These senses are clairvoyance, polyvoyance, hidden ear, intuition, telepathy and memory of past lives. Their bodies are pineal, pituitary gland in the brain, thyroid, apple, neck, the heart and solar plexus or epigastric above the navel. Through them note 7 bodies of man: physical, vital, astral, mental, which are the 4 bodies of sin, are lunar, protoplasmic, and 3 more are bodies of the will, the soul and the spirit, which enrich the knowledge consciousness. This knowledge is alive because we do vivid, is that religious and philosophers call the soul. If we improve the way we improve our knowledge, the senses are enhanced when we remove the defects. If we are liars, our senses are liars. If we are rascals, our senses are too. In this culture we have to return our shortcomings to improve our informers or senses. Friend knows the Gnostic culture, which fundamental education teaches, that ranges from the sublime conception to old age. July Medina v. 1st Grade. Introduction to Gnosis. This is the degree of Introduction to the Gnostics, Philosophical Studies or external degrees of Gnosis. It is natural that all students start at this grade and then continue successively with grades 1st, 2nd, 3rd, etc. It should bear in mind that these are not the Gnostic esoteric degrees. Gnostic esoteric degrees are received when the student is ready. Esoteric degrees, which are the true Gnostics degrees, cannot be disclosed by anyone who has received them. This is prohibited. Who says I have many degrees, so many initiations is a dishonest. If a person wants to be an engineer, lawyer or doctor, etc., you have to prepare for it. That person will go to school and study hard. After having a good theoretical knowledge of the branch that studies, then you start practicing what you have learned. The practice brings perfection. The great sages, the great professionals, great scientists, etc., have not only come to possess a good theoretical knowledge of their respective branches of study, but have put this knowledge into practice. Theory alone cannot bring anything except an intellectual enjoyment of those who understand practice is needed. Study this course of lessons and study it with true incentive, with the desire to learn, the desire to know the superior wisdom. But remember, you have to put into practice what you have learned, if you want to reach the perfection of the work. Lesson 1. It is necessary to succeed in life. If you truly want to succeed, you must start by being honest with yourself. Recognize your own mistakes. When we recognize our own mistakes, we are on the way to correct them. Anyone who corrects his mistakes inevitably triumphs. The businessman who daily blames others for his own failures and never recognizes his own mistakes cannot succeed. Remember that the greatest criminals consider themselves as saints. If we visit a penitentiary, we see that no thief or criminal considers himself guilty. Almost all of them say to themselves, I am innocent. You do not fall into the same error. Have the courage to recognize their own mistakes. Thus worst evils will also be avoided. Who recognizes his own mistakes can make the happy home. The politician, scientist, philosopher, religious, etc. that comes to recognize his own mistakes can correct them and succeed in life. If you want to succeed in life, do not criticize anyone. Whoever criticizes others is weak, while that self-criticism, from moment to moment, is a giant. Criticism is useless because it hurts the pride of others and provokes the resistance of the victim, who then seeks to justify itself. Criticism provokes an inevitable reaction against its author. If you want to truly succeed, listen to this advice: do not criticize anyone. The man or woman who knows how to live without criticizing anyone does not provoke resistance or reactions on the part of others, and consequently an atmosphere of success and progress is formed. On the other hand, he is criticizing others full of enemies. We must remember that human beings are full of pride and vanity, and this pride and this vanity inherent in them produces a reaction, resentment, hate, etc. that is directed against the criticism. We conclude that it criticizes others inevitably fails. He who wants to correct others should best begin by correcting himself. This is better and less dangerous. The world is full of neurasthenic beings. The neurasthenical type is critical, irritable and intolerable. There are many causes of neurasthenia: impatience, anger, egotism, arrogance, pride, etc. Among the spirit and the body there is a mediator nervous system. Lithium nervous system. When your nervous system is irritated by something that exhausts you, it is better to run away from that. You work intensely but with moderation. Remember that excessive work produces fatigue. If you do not pay attention to fatigue, if you continue with excessive work, then fatigue is replaced with excitement. When excitement turns morbid, becomes neurasthenia. It is necessary to alternate work with pleasant rest. Thus we avoid the danger of falling into neurasthenia. Every employer who wants to succeed should be careful of the danger of neurasthenia. The neurasthenic employer criticizes everything and becomes unbearable. The neurasthenic despises patience and as employer becomes the executioner of his employees. Workers who must work under the orders of a neurasthenic and fault-finding employer end up hating the job and the employer. No worker discontent works with ease. Many times businesses fail because the workers are unhappy and so do not work efficiently. The neurasthenic, as worker or office employee, becomes rebellious and ends up being fired from work. Every worker neurasthenic seeks occasion to criticize the employer. Every employer has pride and vanity and clearly feels offended when his employees criticize him. The worker who lives criticizing the employer ends up losing the job. You take care of your nervous system. Work with moderation. Have fun healthily. Do not criticize anyone. Try to see in all human beings the best. Exercise to master anger. Are you irritated or full of anger? Feel. Are you nervous? Reflect a little. Remember that anger can provoke gastric ulcers. Control anger through breathing. Expire very slowly. Do not inhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose, keeping your mouth shut. The vital air mentally counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold now breath mentally counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now exhale breath through the mouth slowly mentally counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Repeat until the indignation. Lesson to a great author deduced that the human being needs 8 important things in life: health and preservation of life, food, sleep, money and the things money can buy, life in the beyond, sexual satisfaction, welfare, children, a sense of self-importance. We synthesize these 8 things into 3: 1. Health. 2. Money. 3. Love. If you really want to acquire these 3 things, you should study and practice everything that this course teaches you. We will show the way to success. Force of thought. You need to know that there is a force vastly superior to electricity and dynamite, that is the power of thought. When you think of a friend or a family member, etc., your brain mental waves escape. These waves are like those of radio stations. These waves travel through space and reach the mind of that person that we are thinking. And scientists begin to experiment with the power of thought. Soon invented the telemetrometer instrument with which you can measure the mental strength of each person. In the future, optics will advance some more, and then the photometrometer instrument that will allow us to see and measure the mental strength that radiates the human brain will invent. You must know that just as man has a mind, so the whole universe is mind. There is the human mind and the cosmic mind. The earth is condensed mind. The entire universe is condensed mind. The universal mind waves saturate the infinite space. The engineer who will build a house, the first thing is the mental project. The constructs in mind, projected in the plane, and finally the crystallized materially. So everything, every building, first existed in the mind. There can't not be anything in the physical or material world in which we live, without having existed in the world of mind. We must learn to concentrate and project the mind with precision and great strength. You need to know the mind is concentrating his attention on one thing. When you fix your attention on a distant friend, when you concentrate on that friend, you can be certain that your brain emits powerful mental waves that will inevitably reach your friend's brain. The important thing is that you really concentrate. It is necessary that no other thought is able to distract him. You must learn to concentrate the mind. You are studying this course and we believe wants to succeed in life and have health, money and love. Reflect a little. Learn to manage the power of thought. To learn to handle the power of thought will with absolute certainty to win as the arrow reaches its target, guided by the hand of the expert archer. Remember that the world is a product of the mind. You are what is in the mind. You can't totally change using the power of thought. The poor and miserable is because he wants to be so with the mind holds poor and miserable. The rich and powerful is because his mind was so. Everyone is what he wants to be with the strength of mind. Each projected into the world of the cosmic mind what it is and what it wants to be. It all depends on the kind of mental projections that have crystallized. As the cloud condenses into water and the water condenses into ice, so the mental strength. First clouds projects, then water circumstances, development of the project, and finally the hard ice the project become concrete facts if the project has been well done and hard enough. If the facts or development facts and circumstances have been wonderful, the result will be victory. The perfect condensation of the project is victory. The basic factors for the success of a project are threefold. 1. Mental force. 2. Favorable circumstances. 3. Intelligence. Mental toughness. Without mental strength it is impossible to achieve the crystallization of a commercial, etc. project. It is necessary for our students to learn to manage mental strength. But first you need the student learns to relax your physical body. It is essential to know how to relax the body to achieve the perfect concentration of thought. Can relax the body while sitting in a comfortable chair, or lying on the dead man position with heels touching each other, arms at her sides, etc. Of the two positions, the second position, dead man, is the best. Imagine that your feet are subtle, that a group of dwarves them escape. Imagine that your calves are full of small playful dwarves that leave one another, and as they leave, the muscles become flexible and elastic. Continue with your knees doing the same exercise. Follow the hamstrings, sexual organs, abdomen, heart, throat, muscles of the face and head successively, imagining that those small dwarves flee from each of these parts of the body, leaving the muscles completely relaxed. Concentration of thought. When the body is perfectly relaxed, concentration of thought, it becomes easy and simple. You focus on the business you have planned. Vividly imagine the entire business. People relate to the business. Identify yourself with those people. Speak as if you were them. You mentally say what I want those people to say. Forget about yourself and change your human personality of those people, acting as you want these people to act. You determine and powerful thought waves that will cross the room to reach the brains of the people related to the business. If the concentration is perfect, success will then be inevitable. The law of karma. This law is known in the East. Millions of people around the world know it because this law is universal. This law operates throughout the universe. If you misuse the power of thought, the law of karma will fall upon you. You will be horribly punished. Mental energy is a gift of God and should only be used for good purposes and good intentions. It is just that the poor improve their economic situation. But it is not fair to use mental power to harm others. Before doing mental work to carry out the crystallization of a project, reflect and meditate. If you are going to use mental strength to harm others, it is better not to do it, because the terrible ray of cosmic justice will inevitably fall upon you like a ray of vengeance. Favorable circumstances. Thought and action should always march totally united. Crystallization of a project is possible only when the circumstances are favorable. You learn to determine favorable circumstances for your business. Freud, the great psychologist, said that everything that man does in life has fundamental causes. 1. The sex drive. 2. The desire to be great. Every human being moves under the sex drive. Everyone wants to be appreciated. Nobody likes to be despised. If you want to surround yourself with good circumstances for the crystallization of your business, then recognize the good qualities of others. Encourage the good qualities of others, not humiliate anyone, not despise anyone. It is necessary to encourage everyone in his work, trade or profession. By means of appreciation and encouragement, we can awaken enthusiasm in all those people who are related to us. You learn to wisely praise others without falling into flattery. People feel comforted with food estimate. Be chivalrous. You do not criticize anyone. That will form the favorable atmosphere for the crystallization of your business. Sincere appreciation of the merits of others is one of the great secrets of success. It is necessary to leave the bad habit of talking about ourselves at every moment. It is urgent to use the word to strengthen and encourage the good qualities of others. The Gnostic student must leave the bad habit to sit naming himself and tell his own life every moment. The man or woman who only talk about themselves, they become unbearable. Such people fall into poverty because people get tired of them. Never say I, always say we. The term we has more cosmic power. The term I is egotistical and tires all those who come into contact with us. The self is selfish. Self must be dissolved. The ego is the creator of conflicts and problems. Always repeat we, every morning. Before getting up, say with strength and energy, we are strong. We are rich. We are full of luck and harmony. OM, OM, OM. Pray this simple prayer and you will see that it will succeed in everything. Put great devotion in this prayer. Put faith. Exercise. You hang from the ceiling of his room a silk thread. At the end of this thread must have a needle. Concentrate on that needle and try to move it with the power of thought. Mental waves, when developed, can move this needle. You work 10 minutes a day in practice. At first, the needle hanging the silk thread will not move. Eventually you will see that the needle oscillates and moves vigorously. This exercise is to develop mental strength. Remember that mental waves travel through space and pass from one brain to another. Lesson 3. The great lawyer, Jose M. Cesar, said there is neither luck nor misfortune, success nor failure, everything is vibration of the ether. By learning the use of Tatwas can favorably solve all matters of life. You need a precise and exact system to obtain money, a scientific system that never fails. You need to take advantage of favorable circumstances to achieve the crystallization of all commercial, etc. projects. Note Tatwa is vibration of the ether. In this era of radio, television and guided missiles, it would be absurd to deny the vibration of the ether. A great sage said, life was born from radiation, subsists by radiation and is suppressed by any oscillatory imbalance. You have the right to succeed. Spirit should overcome matter. We cannot accept misery. You remember that misery is typical of the failed spirits. When the spirit overcomes matter, the result is light, splendor, complete success economically, socially and spiritually. It is necessary for you. Note the law of universal vibration. The study of Tatwas is important. Tatwa, this term is a Hindustani, is vibration of the ether. Now scientists say there is no ether and the only reality is the magnetic field. We could also say that there is no matter and that the only reality is energy. These are words, a matter of terms. The magnetic field is ether. Everything comes from the ether. Everything returns to ether. Sir Oliver Lodge, the great British scientist, says it is the ether that gives place, through diverse modifications of its equilibrium, to all phenomena of the universe, from the impalpable light to the formidable masses of the worlds. Prana. Prana is the cosmic energy. Prana is vibration, electric motion, light and heat, universal magnetism, life. Prana is the life that throbs in each atom and in each Sunday. Prana is the life of ether. The great life, i.e. prana, is transformed into a very divine intense blue substance. The name of this substance is Akash. The Akash is a marvelous substance that fills the entire infinite space, and when modified it becomes ether. It is interesting to know that ether modified becomes, in turn, in what we call Tatwas. The study of ether vibrations Tatwas is indispensable. You remember that business, love, health, etc. they are controlled by cosmic vibrations. If you know the vibratory laws of life, if you know the Tattvas, you can get a lot of money. Remember that money in itself is neither good nor bad, everything depends on the use you do it. If used for good, it's good, and if used for evil, is evil. You get lot of money and use it for the good of humanity. There are 7 major Tattvas to you. You must learn to manage to succeed in life. You need to be an achiever. No Gnostico must live in misery. You need to note the names of the 7 Tattvas. These names are Sanskrit terms. Maybe to you, costing some work to learn these names, but remember, well worth studying to succeed in life. Names of Tattvas. Akash is the principle of ether. Vayu is the etheric principle of air. Tejas is the etheric principle of fire. Prithvi is the etheric principle of the element earth. Apas is the etheric principle of water. There are 2 secret tattvas named Adi and Samadhi that vibrate during the aurora and are excellent for internal meditation. With them ecstasy or samadhi is achieved on these tattvas we shall not know because they are useful only for advanced students. Hours to Wicco. The vibration of the tattvas begins with sunrise. Each tattva vibrated for 24 minutes in a 2-hour period. The first tattva that vibrates is Akash, followed in succession by Vayu, Tejas, Prithvi, Apas. 2 hours later, Akash vibrates again and the succession of tattvas is repeated in the same order. The tattvas vibrate day and night. You need to know the time of sunrise. Bucheli's astrological yearbook is one of the calendars that marks the time of sunrise for each country of Latin America. Some newspapers especially in America and magazines indicate the time of sunrise. It is also useful for this purpose Galvin's calendar. Those who want the American yearbook Bucheli can ask the following address: Ms. Led Bucheli, Corcilla 1880, Santiago de Chile, S.A. Editorial Kiter, S.A. AB. Santa Fe number 1260, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Properties of tattvas. Akash is exclusively good for meditation. At this time we recommend pray a lot. Has no business appointments, your luck at this time because inevitably fail. This tattva causes us to make very serious mistakes. If you work during this period must then be very careful. Artists should abstain from working in Akash. Everything that begins with Akash will fail. Akash is the tattva of death. Vayu. Everything that is velocity and motion corresponds to Vayu, the principle of air. Wines, air, aerial navigation, etc., are related to Vayu. During this period people enjoy speaking ill of others, cheating, stealing, etc. Usually aircraft accidents occur during this period. Suicides are stimulated by this tattva. We advise you not to marry during this period because their marriage would be short-lived. All kinds of simple and fast businesses are very good in Vayu, but complicated and long-lasting business are a failure. It is good to intellectual work during this period. The great yogis mentally manipulate this tattva and use it intelligently when they want to float in the air. Roof tiles. It is hot because it is the etheric principle of fire. During the period in which this tattva is active we feel more heat. You can bathe in cold water in Texas and never cold. Do not argue with anyone in Texas because the consequences can be serious. You must employ when Texas to work hard. Do not marry in Texas because you will have constant quarrels with your spouse. The most terrible explosions and accidents happened in the period to Texas. Prithvi. This is the tattva of success in life. If you want to succeed in business do it in Prithvi. If you want to have good health should eat and drink in Prithvi. Marriages performed in Prithvi are happy for life. Every party, every lecture, every business, every appointment done in Prithvi will be a complete success. Prithvi is life, charity, benevolence. Apas. It is the principle of water and the opposite of Tejas fire. This tattva is wonderful for the purchase of goods. It is also marvelous for business and you can get a lot of money if you know take advantage of this tattva. By use. Apas lottery. Travel by water are good in Apas. The rains that begin in Apas tend to be very long and strong. The tattva Apas works concentrating and attracting. Remember you need to know the exact time of sunrise to be guided by the tattvas. You have always a good wristwatch or pocket and take the tattvas in practical life. Practice. Sit at a table with his face to the east. Rest your elbows on the table and proceed as follows. Center the thumbs of the right and left hands between the ears. With indexes cover your eyes, middle fingers cover the nostrils, and the ring and little fingers seal your lips. Inhale you. Slowly counting to 20. Hold your breath and count from 1 to 20. Exhale slowly counting from 1 to 20. It is necessary to remove your middle fingers from the nostrils to inhale and exhale. But during breath holding middle fingers should hermetically seal your nostrils. It is necessary that during breath holding you try to see the tattvas with the third eye. The third eye resides between the two eyebrows. At first you will not see anything, but after some time you will see and recognize them by their colors. Akash is black and its planet Saturn. Vayu is greenish blue and his planet Mercury. Tejas is red like fire and its planet is Mars. Prithvi is golden yellow and its planet is the Sun. It also influenced by Jupiter. Apas is white and its planets are Venus and the Moon. Lesson 4. To succeed in life you have to become fishers of men. Jesus chose his disciples among the poor fishermen. They had to stop catching fish to become fishers of men. Do you want to achieve success, power, glory? Listen to this advice: put on the hook bait you like to fish. Do not talk you with others about things that to you are interested. Theirs is uniquely yours. Human beings are selfish, unfortunately, and just want to know what likewise interested. If your neighbor speaks of things he wants, you will have a positive influence on him and get him all you need. We must learn to see the perspective of others and help it to resolve their conflicts. Well, we solve our own problems. Become you in an altruistic and caring person. Help others with their advice. Strive to understand the point of view of others, and you succeeded. Fish in abundance. When we begin to understand our neighbor, we also began to take the first steps on the path to happiness and success. You have to study and understand the functions of the mind. Who knows the mental mechanism is able to control it? We have talked a lot of mental strength, and there are many schools that teach how to concentrate the mind. No one can deny intelligently the power of thought. This force is made up of waves and radioactive forms that move from one brain to another. You have to develop that wonderful force, but we must warn that thought and action must be combined wisely if we want to succeed in life. Concentration of thought is miraculous when intelligently combined with action. Mental power achieves prodigies and wonders when based on sincerity and truth. You do not try to deceive others. Do not use mental concentration to deceive your neighbor, because failure for you will be inevitable. Mental power achieves prodigies when used to help others. By helping others, we benefit ourselves. That is the law. Do you need succeed in something important? You sit on a good comfortable chair, relax your muscles, focus on the business to you. Interested in imagine the business every success. Identify with neighbor, try to understand the point of view of others, advise him mentally, making him see the advantages that it means business is going to perform with you. So, the mental waves will penetrate deep into the minds of others and perform wonders. 1 hour of perfect concentration is enough to determine success in a business. Every merchant has the right to get money, but what you bandage should be good, useful and necessary for others. You do not try to deceive others, because he deceives himself. Multitudes of peddlers travel the streets offering their wares to no avail. Nobody is interested in those goods. They annoy people even when they are with those vendors. The error of these vendors is that only think theirs and theirs speak. If they learn to see another's point of view, inevitably triumph. You need to understand that every human being has an eye that wants to stand out, make itself felt, climb to the top of the stairs, etc. Precisely this is the weak side of human beings. You also has the weak side. Do not fall into the same mistakes of others. Never say I, always say we. Who dominates can also dominate others. Cleverly insinuate what you want, but do not say I want. Remember that others are not interested in what you want. Let others prepare your idea as if it were of them. You put the elements for that preparation, put very intelligently. Let others prepare your idea. You can be sure that others are happy to develop its idea. Two people like to feel important. That is the weakness of the ego. You explode this weakness. Never feel you important and will be important. You try I dissolve and be truly happy. Success in life depends on the skill that you have to deal with other people. It needs to selfishness and cultivate Christ-centrism. It is urgent to work for the common good. It is essential to dissolve an I always think like us. The term we have more strength than the selfish self. All the great failures of life are due to me. When he wants to make itself felt, highlight, up to the top of the ladder, then come the reactions of others. The result of such mental reactions is failure. You remember that the self is energy. The ego is desire. The I is remember. The ego is fear, violence, hatred, desires, fanaticisms, jealousies, distrust, etc. You need to deeply exploit all the undercurrents of your mind, because you have within you that is called me, myself, ego, etc. If you want to succeed in life, must dissolve the ego. If you want to dissolve the ego, must disintegrate all your defects. If you want to break up all his faults, not condemn or justify them cum frontalos. When we condemn a defect, we hide in the deep recesses of the mind. When we justify a defect, we build on it horribly. But when we understand a certain defect, then we disintegrate completely. When the ego dissolves, we are filled with fulfillment and happiness. When the ego is dissolved, is expressed within us and through us the self, the spirit, love. Remember you, God, the spirit, the inner being of every man and every woman and every child, never the self. Being is divine, eternal and perfect. The ego is the Satan of the biblical legend. The self is not a body. The ego is energetic and diabolic. In the self is the root of misery, poverty, failures, disappointments, unfulfilled desires, violent desires, hatred, envy, jealousy, etc. Change your life right now. It is urgent for you. Understands the need to end all its defects to dissolve the ego, Satan, the cause of all failures. When the self dissolves within us, there is only being, God, happiness. God is peace, practice. A great man, having studied himself, discovered he was 12 defects that were hurting him. This man said, just as it is impossible to catch 10 hares at the same time, because the hunter who wanted to do this would hunt not any, so it is impossible to end my 12 defects at the same time. This man came to the conclusion that it would be better to marry a hare and then another, finish first with a defect and then another. He solved this man spent 2 months each defect. When the man reached the 24 months and had no defects, he had finished with the 12 defects that prevented him from reaching the victory. The result was wonderful. This man became the first citizen of the United States. Your name, Benjamin Franklin. Imitate you. This character. Check yourself and see how many defects you have. Count them, list them. Then you deathqueles 2 months each defect, successively, until you delete them all. You sit in a comfortable chair and pray to his inner God. So you are my true self, you are my internal God. Enlighten me, help me. Let me see my own shortcomings. Amen. You concentrate in this prayer to get to sleep. You try to discover all its shortcomings. We recommend reading the Bible. In the 4 Gospels is the word of the Divine Master. There you will see the virtues you need. There you will discover the virtues missing. Where there is a lack, virtue defect. Lesson 5. The money. Why has money assumed such an immense importance in our lives? Does it depend solely for our own psychological happiness? All humans need food, clothing and shelter, this is known. But why is this so natural and simple for even the birds, has assumed such tremendous importance and significance and frightening? Money has assumed such an exaggerated and disproportionate value because psychologically we depend on it for our welfare. Money nourishes our personal vanity, gives us social prestige, gives us the means to achieve power. The money has been used for purposes mind and totally different purposes than it has in itself, between which cover our immediate physical needs. The money is being used for psychological purposes. We need money for food, clothing and shelter, this is obvious. But when money becomes a psychological need, when we use it for different purposes than it has in itself, when we depend on it to get fame, prestige, social position, etc., then money assumes an importance before the mind exaggerated and disproportionate, hence the struggle and conflict to possess it originates. It is logical that we need to get money to meet our physical needs, to have food, clothing and shelter, but if we depend on money exclusively for our own happiness and personal satisfaction, then we are more miserable beings on earth. When deeply understand that the money is intended only to provide food, clothing and shelter, then we put spontaneously an intelligent limitation. The result of this is that money already before us assumes that such exaggerated importance when it becomes a psychological need. The money itself is neither good nor bad. Everything depends on the use we make of it. If we use it for good, it's good. If we use it for bad, it's bad. We need to thoroughly understand the true nature of sensation and satisfaction. The mind that wants to understand the truth must be free from these obstacles. If we really want to liberate thought from the shackles of sensation and satisfaction, we must begin with those sensations that are more familiar to us, and establish there the adequate foundation for understanding. Sensations have their suitable place, and when we understand deeply into all levels of mind, do not take stupid distortion they now have. Many people think that if all things order to march according to the political party to which they belong, and which all we fight, then we would have a happy world, full of plenty, peace and perfection. That is a false concept, because really nothing that can be individually if we have not understood the true meaning of things. The man is too poor internally and therefore needs money and things for sense and personal satisfaction. When someone is poor looking internally and externally money and look for things to complete satisfaction. That's why that money and material things have taken a disproportionate value and the human being is willing to steal, exploit and lie at every moment. Hence the struggle between capital and labor, between employers and workers, between exploiters and exploited, should etc. They are useless all political changes without understanding our own inner poverty before. They can be changed again and again. Economic systems can be switched over and over again, the social system. But if we do not deeply understand the intimate nature of our inner poverty, the individual will always create new means and ways to obtain personal satisfaction at the expense of peace others. It is urgent to deeply understand the intimate nature of this myself, if you really want to be rich internally. Who is internally rich is incapable of exploiting one's neighbor, he is incapable of stealing and lying. Who is rich internally, free from the shackles of feeling and personal satisfaction. Who is rich internally, she has found happiness. We need the money, it's true. But it is necessary to deeply understand our exact relationship with it. Neither the ascetic nor the covetous miser has ever comprehended what our exact relationship with money. He is not renouncing money, nor coveting it, as we come to understand our exact relationship with it. We need to give us understanding intelligently aware of our own material needs without relying disproportionately money. When we understand our exact relationship with money, actually it ends the pain of detachment and the frightening suffering that makes us competitive. We must learn to differentiate between our immediate physical needs and psychological dependence on things. Psychological dependence on things creates exploitation and slavery. We need money to cover our immediate physical needs. Unfortunately, the need becomes greed. The psychological I, perceiving its own emptiness and misery, usually gives money and things a different value that has an exaggerated and absurd value. That's how I want the rich externally as it is internally poor and miserable. The I want to be felt, dazzle others with things and money. Today our relationship with money is based on greed. We allege all we need to justify greed. Greed is the secret cause of hatred and the brutalities of the world. The latter are often assumed legal aspects. Greed is the cause of war and all the miseries of this world. If we want to end the greed of the world, we must deeply understand that this world is within ourselves. We are the world. Greed of other individuals is within ourselves. Really all individuals living within our own consciousness. The world greed is within the individual. Only ending greed within us and the greed of the world. Only by understanding the complex process of greed at all levels of the mind, we can get to experience the great reality. Practice 1. You like star-shaped opening legs and arms left and right. Second, focus now on their own immediate physical needs. Third, meditate you. Reflect on each of those needs. Fourth, lull yourself to sleep trying to discover for yourself where necessity ends and where covetousness begins. 5. If your practice of concentration and inner meditation is correct, insight will discover what your legitimate needs and what greed. Remember that only deeply understanding the need and greed can you establish true foundations for the correct process of thinking. Lesson 6. It is necessary that you have 3 things in life: bread, clothing and shelter. We should not be hungry, we need to eat. We should not be poorly dressed, it is necessary to dress well. It is not fair to live our entire life paying apartment rent, we need a good home. You think about this. It is urgent for you. Understand the need to live better without falling into the sin of greed. In our last lesson we said that it is necessary to distinguish between need and greed. You need to know where necessity ends and where covetousness begins. You need to learn to make a good impression to others. This is a very delicate art. Many ladies dress very well, sometimes with excessive luxury, and look at their rings' precious hands and yet nevertheless fail to impress others well. Many gentlemen wear very expensive suits, elegant and late model used cars, and yet they fail many times, not knowing make a good impression on people. President of Colombia, Dr. Holly Herrera, controlled his people with his eternal smile. Every smile of the president represented millions of dollars. Men know that the smile of a woman is worth more to us than all the furs and diamonds that they use. A woman with a captivating smile makes great impression among men. The smile of sincerity and the perfume of courtesy perform miracles in the business world. It is urgent to distinguish between the smile of sincerity and the mechanical smile. The smile of sincerity exits the bottom of the soul. The mechanical smile is hypocritical and sinister, it's a devil's grin. In humans there are two factors of discord, the soul and the devil. The soul is divine. The devil is evil. Every good action is the soul. Every evil action is the devil. When you hit the door open for you, the homeowner can often ask who is. Then you answer, I. This I, myself. This is precisely the devil in us. Clairvoyance. I see this as a very horrible fluidic entity that lives within the human body. This entity leaves the body during sleep and travels very far, wherever you carry your desires and passions. The soul is not the self. The soul is the self. Distinguish you between being and self. Being is the soul. The self is Satan in us. His body does not think or want. The body is only a suit, dress. You think with the mind. The mind is a vehicle of the soul. But when we are bad, the mind becomes the devil vehicle. Diabolic mind wants wars, creates conflicts, problems, wants vices, alcoholic drinks, adultery, fornication, greed, hypocrisy, etc. The bee enjoys working. The ant is happy working. You learn to enjoy and enjoy the work. The employee of a store when enjoying working radiates mental waves of success and progress. Then sales increase and the employer is happy with his employee and does not want him to leave. You worry for business success where you are. Work. It is necessary for you. Affection. Employer is one. Learn to smile sincerely, learn to enjoy their work. If you want people to feel happy with you, it is necessary for you. You feel happy with others. If you are not happy with the work, if you do not want to smile, we recommend listening to good music. Remember that music performs miracles. You can change your character. When we hear good music, when we spend long moments absorbed in listening to good music, the mind radiates waves that travel through space. These waves pass from one brain to another. Proof of the reality of these waves is in telepathy. How many times we are passing down the street and suddenly we are assailed by the memory of someone, then it happens that we find the person we remember. This is telepathy. Mental waves that persons have come to us and we in turn have captured. In our organization we have a real wireless system. The pineal gland at the back of the brain is thought transmitting center, and the solar plexus, situated in the region of the navel, is the receiving antenna. The pineal gland is the seat of the soul, window of Brahma. Through this window enters the soul in the body, and out of it. The pineal gland is a small red-gray fabric. This gland secretes a hormone that regulates the development of sexual organs. After maturity, this gland degenerates into fibrous tissue, not secret. The pineal gland is the puzzle of the wise, the thought-transmitting center. This gland is developed in the great geniuses of science, art, philosophy, etc. It is totally atrophied in idiots. The pineal gland is intimately related to the sexual organs. Sexual potency depends on the power of the pineal gland. The man or woman who stupidly wastes their sexual energy fails in business because their pineal gland atrophies. The weakened pineal gland cannot forcefully radiate mental waves. The result is failure. Be prudent. Do not waste your sexual energies awkwardly. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." You comply with this, the sixth commandment. Save your sexual energies. So you fortify your pineal gland and inevitably succeed. You can then radiate your mental waves with strength, power and glory. These mental waves, after arriving at the receiving center, the solar plexus of other persons to contact you, will give you the success looking for. Be achiever. Always smile, full of sincerity, cheerful, alive. Work with pleasure and joy and the world will be yours. Luck will smile everywhere. Before the mirror, In front of the mirror, you contemplate his face carefully. And then my soul, you must succeed. My soul, you must defeat Satan's soul, take my mind, my feelings, my life. You must stay away from me, the guardian of the threshold. You must beat him. You must take possession of me completely. Amen. 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 You or this prayer 7 times and then observe in the mirror, her eyes, her pupils, the center of his pupils, the apple of his eye. Imagine them charged with light, strength and power. It is necessary for you. Try to penetrate the mind inside your eyes reflected in the mirror. You need to try to do with imagination in the center of those reflected eyes, the beauty of her soul. You need to exclaim saying, my soul, wanna see, I wanna see, I wanna see you. You persevere. With intensity daily exercise. Do your exercise every night before going to sleep. You develop this exercise. Clairvoyance. Practice 10 minutes daily. That is all. Clairvoyance. You need to know that there is a sixth sense. This is clairvoyance. That power resides in the pineal gland. When you develop clairvoyance, can read the thoughts of others like an open book. When you clairvoyant, you can see the soul of the people. When you clairvoyant, I can't see the people. Then you realize that the soul is not the self. The self is Satan in us. Clairvoyance allows us to see what lies beyond death. With the exercises we will give you fully developed clairvoyance. You should practice these exercises. We want you. Write us communicating all your impressions. Lesson 7 in life. Man faces innumerable problems. Each person needs to know how to solve each of these problems intelligently. We need to understand each problem. The solution to every problem is in the problem itself. It is time to learn to solve problems. There are many problems: economic, social, moral, political, religious, family, etc. And we must learn to solve them intelligently. Most important for the solution of every problem is not identified with it. One has a tendency to identify with the problem and identification so that in fact we become the problem itself. The result of such identification is that we fail in the solution because a problem can't never solve another problem. To solve the problem, a lot of peace and stillness of mind is needed. A restless mind, feisty, confused, cannot solve any problem. If you have a very serious problem is not identified with the problem, not you become another problem. Retire anywhere in healthy recreation, the forest or a park or a friend's house, very intimate, etc. Distract yourself with something different. Listen to good music, and then with its calm and quiet mind, being in perfect peace, try to deeply understand the problem. Pointed out that the solution of every problem is in the problem itself. You remember that without peace cannot do anything new. You need calm and peace to solve the problem that comes your way in life. You need to think about a completely new about the problem you want to solve mode, and this is only possible to have you tranquility and peace. In modern life we have many problems and unfortunately we enjoy peace. This is a real puzzle because without peace we cannot solve problems. We need peace and we must study this matter thoroughly. We need to investigate what is the main factor which finishes with peace within and outside ourselves. We need to discover what causes the conflict. When you fully understand at all levels of the mind, the infinite contradictions that we have inside has come, because that is the main factor of discord and conflict. Understanding thoroughly the cause of an illness, heals the sick. Knowing thoroughly the cause of conflict, we end the conflict. Therefore the result is peace. Within us and around us, thousands of contradictions exist that form conflicts. Really, what exists within us also exists in society because it is, as we have said many times, an extension of the individual. If there is within us contradiction and conflict in the society there too. If the individual does not have peace, society neither will, and in these conditions all the propaganda for peace is, in fact, totally useless. If we wisely analyze ourselves, we discover that within ourselves there is a constant state of affirmation and negation. What we want to be and what we really are. We are poor and we want to be millionaires. We are soldiers and we want to be generals. We are single and want to be married. We are employees and we want to be managers, etc. The state of contradiction engenders conflict, pain, moral misery, absurd actions, violence, gossip, slander, etc. The state of contradiction in life can't never bring us peace. A man without peace can't never solve their problems. You need to intelligently solve your problems, and therefore it is urgent that you have peace constantly. The state of contradiction impedes the resolution of problems. Each problem implies thousands of contradictions. Gotta make it. That, how, when, etc. Mental contradiction creates conflicts and frustrates the solution of problems. First, we need to solve the causes of the conflict to end the conflict. Only then comes peace, and with it, the solution of the problems. It is important to discover the causes of contradictions, must analyze them in detail. Only then can end the mental conflict. It is not correct to blame others for our internal contradictions. The causes of these contradictions are within us. Mental conflict exists between what we are and what we want to be, between what is a problem and what we want it to be. When we have a problem of any kind, whether moral, economic, religious, familial, marital, etc., our first reaction is to think of it, resist it, deny it, accept it, explain it, etc. You need to understand that mental anguish, the contradiction, with concern the conflict, cannot solve any problem. The best way to react to a problem is silence. I mean the silence of the mind. This silence is not thinking about the problem. This silence comes when we realize that the conflict and contradictions nothing is resolved. This silence is not a special gift from anyone, even a certain capacity. No one can cultivate this silence. Advance because comes when understand that no problem is solved by resisting, acquiescingly denying, affirming or explaining it, etc. This silence comes when we realize that the conflict and contradictions nothing is resolved. This silence is not a special gift from anyone, even a certain capacity. No one can cultivate this silence. Advance because comes when understand that no problem is solved by resisting, acquiescingly denying, affirming or explaining it, etc. This silence comes when we realize that the conflict and contradictions nothing is resolved. This silence is not a special gift from anyone, even a certain capacity. No one can cultivate this silence. Advance because comes when understand that no problem is solved by resisting, acquiescingly denying, affirming or explaining it, etc. Mental silence. Intelligent action is born, the intuitive and wise action that will solve the problem no matter how difficult. This intelligent action is not the result of any reaction. When we perceive the fact, the problem, when we realize the fact without affirming it, denying it, or explain it, when neither accept the fact, or reject it, then comes the silence of the mind. It flourishes in silence. Intuition, spurring silence. Intelligent action that totally solves the problem. Only in the stillness and mental silence is freedom and wisdom. Mental conflict is destructive and ruinous. Mental conflict is the result of opposing desires. We want and do not want, we want this and that. We are in constant contradiction, and this, in fact, is conflict. The constant contradiction that exists within us is due to the struggle of opposing desires. There is constant denial of one desire for another desire, an effort is over another pledge. There is no permanent desire in humans, all desire is temporary. Wants a job and then you have it, want another job. The employee wants to be manager, and the priest wants to be a bishop. No one is satisfied with what you have. Everybody is full of unsatisfied desires and wants satisfaction. Life is an absurd succession of desires, fleeting and vain. When we understand deeply that all the desires in life are fleeting and vain, when we understand that the physical body is engendered in sin and that its destiny is the putrefaction of the grave, then comes from that deep understanding true peace of mind. Disappears the contradiction and conflict. Only the mind that is in peace can solve problems. Peace is in the silence of the mind. The contradiction arises from the obstinacy when the mind holds only one desire, when it wants at all costs, regardless, your wish is made, it follows that there must be conflict. If we carefully observe two people who are discussing the problem, we can confirm that each person clings to his desire, everyone wants to see fulfilled their desire, and this, of course, is mental conflict. When we resolutely see the vanity of desires, when we comprehend that desire is the cause of our conflicts and bitterness, then true peace arrives. Practice sitting in a comfortable chair or lying in bed. Close your eyes. Then focus inside, studying himself, investigating their desires, their contradictions. It is necessary for you Understand what your contradictory desires so that they know the causes of internal conflicts. With knowledge of the causes of mental conflict there comes peace of mind. You practice this simple exercise daily. It is necessary for you. You know yourself. Lesson 8. The alcoholism. This vice has three perfectly defined aspects: the initiation, B. Intoxication, C. Death. Initiation. Some people begin this horrible vice during adolescence, others in their youth, others at maturity, and a few in old age. There are many causes that lead people to the vice of alcohol. The teenager who starts in this horrible way it does in order to feel like a complete man, has a false concept of manhood. He believes that being a man means to be a drunkard, smoker, fornicator, adulterer, etc., etc. The youngster reaches the crude vice of alcoholism, seduced by his friends or embittered by sufferings. Many times a heartbreak, or a difficult economic situation tend to be basic to begin in the fatal path of alcoholism. Reason. The mature man who joins this horrible path of alcohol does, as always, motivated by the spring of his own bitterness. With the first drinks the human organism rebels. At first the organism is not yet intoxicated and it is obvious that it strongly rejects the harmful ingredient of alcohol, which is not used. Vomiting, stomach discomfort after big binges, etc., are symptoms that the body uses to eliminate the noxious ingredient. The struggle of the organism is usually very strong, but the malignant will intense violent are low and get it. No drunk who does not have his moral tragedy. The already intoxicated drunkard knows how to keep very secret that tragedy. The drunkard who is starting in the vice always externalize their tragedy, but when you realize that people do not understand it, prefer to keep quiet. Poisoning don't overcome the defenses of the human organism is alcohol intoxication. Upon reaching this second phase, the organism no longer feels well without alcohol. The doctor intoxicated by alcohol can no longer perform surgery without their favorite drink. His pulse shakes and if he carries out very bad. The trader can no longer negotiate without alcohol. You feel shy and nervous and fails. The worker is no longer able to work without the drink. You feel powerless. Alcohol becomes necessity for the intoxicated organism. The intoxicated one drinks and drinks, stimulated by the secret spring of his moral tragedy. Some drunkards eat and drink. They last longer. Others do not eat well. They say not to lose drunkenness. They die soon. Food favors entire digestive below death. All alcoholic intoxication concludes with death. Death can result from an ulcer, hepatitis or cirrhosis of the liver, or generally from any bad aspect of the liver, stomach, etc. Clinically it has been found that the drunkards that live longer are those who eat while drinking, and fewer live are those who drink and do not eat while drinking. The death of the drunkard is very horrible. In clinics and hospitals they get very nervous due to lack of drinking. Cry, shout. They demand the bottle of alcohol. Desperation is frightening. Some die vomiting blood, others with terrible bloody diarrhea, etc. Psychology. Drunk. The totally intoxicated drunkard spends everything on a vice. When the drunkard does not have to spend, then it becomes a beggar, thief, swindler, or at best nothing more than a simple slave of alcohol, a beggar of alcohol. The intoxicated loses all concept of honor, dignity, responsibility, etc., and is only interested in one thing in life: drinking. Alcohol becomes intoxicated for a vital, fundamental necessity, that is all. The serious things in life have no value for the alcoholic intoxication. He is completely irresponsible. Intoxicated is immoral in the most complete sense of the word. Dignity, honor, proves true honesty, moral responsibility, his word, virtue, etc., has absolutely no relevance to the alcoholic intoxication. The drunkard laughs at all those human qualities, and even feels infinitely superior to his fellows. Campaign against alcohol. The real effective campaign against alcohol is achieved by explaining in full detail the three defined aspects of this horrible vice. These three aspects of the path of alcohol: initiation, intoxication, and death should be pointed out at home, at school, at university, in academies, temples, lodges, in ashrams, sanctuaries, etc. That's the best way to effectively campaign against alcoholism. Dry laws prohibiting the sale of alcohol are useless because drunkards then astutely invent their own way of making alcoholic beverages clandestinely. This does more harm than good to society. Only creative comprehension can save people from falling into this horrible and frightening vice. Home. True education begins at home. Parents who drink give bad example to their children, lead their children down the fatal path of the abyss. In homes, the children should be taught what is this horrible vice, the three aspects of this horrible path, etc. This type of education, accompanied by good example, is radical in warning new generations against the vice of alcohol. What is well learned at home is never forgotten. Meditation and drunkenness. Meditation and intoxication are the opposite poles of the same force. Meditation is positive. Alcohol intoxication is negative. The Rosicrucian Gnostic should drink the wine of meditation in the sacred cup of concentration. It is necessary to keep us from negative. We must not fall into the negative aspect of the mind. The vice of alcohol belongs to the negative aspect of the mind. The drunk plunges into the atomic infernos of nature and lost in the abyss. It is best to drink the wine of meditation in the sacred cup of concentration of thought. Concentrate we thought in our inner God. We meditate deeply on it for hours. Thus we arrive at samadhi, the ineffable ecstasy. Then we can converse with the gods and into the great mysteries of nature. This is better than the delirium tremens. This allows the drunkard to penetrate the atomic infernos of nature, to live with the demons of the abyss. Visions of delirium tremens. Drunks are very real, that they see in their visions really exist. They see larvae, demons and hideous monsters who really have existence in the atomic infernos of universal nature. They penetrate the abyss and see the beings of the abyss, evil beings living in the atomic infernos of nature. Alcoholic larvae. Every human being carries a perceptible atomic atmosphere for clairvoyance. These larvae live in the fourth dimension. Step we have to say that modern physics and begins to admit the four coordinates, the fourth dimension, the fourth vertical. The drunk load in ultrasensitive atmosphere, alcoholic larvae that stimulate him in the vice that gave them life, urging him to drink. These larvae only disintegrate with the sulfur smoke. Cosma the Rampido combined with mental strength sense are a wonderful healing system. Drunk can be cured by combining these two elements wisely. Note: do you have a loved one victim of the vice of alcohol? While it is asleep, shake his right hand with him. Let him smell a delicious perfume, the rose extract, and then talk to him very softly as if he were awake. Advise him, explain in great detail what the horrible vice of alcohol. You remember that when the body sleeps, the ego leaves the body and goes by the fourth dimension. The words you tell the sleeping reach the eardrum, then pass the sensory center of the brain and then transmitted ego even if it is far away from the physical body. Upon waking, the ego returns to the physical body, and if you do not remember what said, you can be sure that everything that has been in the subconscious of your loved one. Those words will produce the effect gradually, and finally the day comes when the patient is cured of the horrible vice of alcohol. Practice. Lie down and remain quietly in his bed. Open your arms and legs right and left to form the flaming five-pointed star. Relax your muscles well. The relaxation process is easily combined with imagination. Practice the exercise of relaxation as was indicated in Lesson 2 Mental Relaxation. After successful relaxation of the physical body, you need to relax your mind. Mental relaxation is also achieved with the help of imagination. Note you. All thoughts that come to mind, all the memories that assail him, all concerns, etc. best be released to know its origin. The study will reveal this to you. Many things, you will know your flaws, mistakes, etc. So you will know how his self, his ego works. Analyze each defect. Try to understand each defect at all levels of the mind. Study each thought, memory or emotion that assails him. Understand every thought. Then imagine a profound abyss. You studied every thought, every memory, anxiety, etc., to the abyss. So your mind be still and silent. In the stillness and silence of the mind you can see and hear the intimo. He is the inner master. He is the God within. Concentration. When the mind has achieved absolute stillness and silence, it can concentrate on intimo. This concentration is done with the help of prayer. You or to intimo. Try to talk to the innermost. You remember that prayer is talking to God. You can pray without formulas, i.e. talk to God with infinite love to tell you what your heart feels. Meditation. Whoever achieves perfect concentration can meditate on his internal God. You reflect in its internal God, identify with it, live in it. Contemplation. Whoever learns to quiet the mind, to concentrate the mind and pray can practice perfect meditation and reach the heights of internal contemplation. Arriving at this point we are in ecstasy. We can talk face to face with the ineffable gods, study the wonders of the infinite cosmos and travel through the infinite in spirit and soul. In that state of ecstasy the physical body falls asleep and abandons. Now you will understand. Why is it that should practice these exercises have moments of sleep? Sleep is a power that should be used to consciously achieve ecstasy. Lesson 9. Universal Mind. Social life is necessarily based on the functionalism of mind. It is necessary to deeply exploit the various levels of the mind. The sphere of thought where man lives is never enclosed within the limited circumference of the scope, as if generally supposed ignorant, and even ignoramuses of the world. If there is such a man, as they believe these people, it would, of course, the most unfortunate man in the world. The man with the mind imprisoned in his cranium could not see or perceive anything. It would be a complete idiot living among the deepest darkness. This unfortunate creature could not see the sun or the moon, or the stars, and the earth we live, or people, or things, or light. Nothing that has existence would exist in the mind of a man. This is explained by the fact that nothing can perceive the man who does not exist beforehand in his own mind. On Immanuel Kant said in his Critique of Pure Reason, the exterior is the interior. The entire universe exists in the cosmic mind. The mental sphere of each person extends throughout the entire cosmos and reaches the most distant stars. This is the reason why we see, hear and feel everything created. This is why we see the most distant stars. Our thinking is not enclosed in the scope. Our thinking extends throughout the cosmos. Our thinking penetrates everywhere. Worlds, suns, people and things, everything is within the mind of every man. Mind is universal energy. The mind vibrates and sparkles in all creation. The brain is not the mind. The brain is only the receiving center, the radio telegraph office that receives messages from the mind. The brain does not think. Whoever thinks is the mind, and this is not the brain. Religions say that the human soul has a body of flesh and flesh. Theosophists hold that the soul besides a body of flesh and blood, a mental body. All schools in East and West who are dedicated to the study of occultism teach their students how to manage the mental body. The soul wrapped in the mental body will be transported to other planets and see what happens there. The whole universe is within the human mind. All minds are within all minds. We live each other in the field of alien thought. Economic and social problems of each person living in every person. No one is oblivious to anyone. All are within everyone's mind. The beggar lives within the mind of the rich, and the latter within the mind of the beggar. We are all immersed in the ocean of the universal mind. Imagination and will. Two poles of the mind are the imagination and will. Imagination is feminine. The will is masculine. The key to success is found in imagination and will united in vibrant harmony. Mental action. The inventor conceives his imagination, the telephone, the radio, the automobile, etc. And then the will, plasma, converts it into facts, into concrete realities. Paris fashion designers dictate fashions just as they conceive them in their imagination. Mental epidemics. If a man thinks both good and bad sense, the waves that emanate from his mind reach the mental body of each individual. Mental waves propagate everywhere. When the waves are of wisdom and love, they benefit all those who receive them. When the waves are impregnated with devotion and veneration towards God, they carry peace and comfort to all those who are suffering. Poisonous mental waves harm the minds of others. Mental waves of hatred, envy, greed, lust, pride, laziness, gluttony, etc., produce mental epidemics. Perverse mental waves poison with radioactivity many weak minds. The case of rebels without a cause is a good example of what mental epidemics are. The rebels without a cause have become bad and harmful pest. The cause of this mental epidemic we must search the misused imagination. Movie theaters show movies of bandits and gunmen then burned in the minds of youngsters. Parents give their children guns, war carts, small guns, toy soldiers, toy machine guns, etc. Everything is reflected strongly in the imagination of children and adolescents. Then come the magazines and comic books of robbers and police, pornographic magazines, etc. The result of all this is not expected, and soon, the child, the adolescent becomes in fact the rebel without a cause, and later into the thief, the bandit, the cheat, etc. Mental hygiene. It is necessary to practice mental hygiene. It is urgent preventive medicine. You cultivate wisdom and love. You do much prayer daily. You select artworks. We suggest good music, classical music, good paintings, the works of Michelangelo, the great operas, etc. You avoid harmful entertainment for the mind. Bloody spectacles like boxing, wrestling, bullfighting, etc. These types of spectacles produce mental epidemics. Take care of you, your mind. Do not let you, that in the temple of his mind evil thoughts penetrate. Be you pure in thought, word and deed. Teach your children all the good, the true and the beautiful. Origins of the universal mind. The great divine reality emerged from its own bosom in the aurora of this universe solar in which we live and move and have our being. The great reality does not know itself, but seen in the living mirror of the great imagination. Nature, then comes to know itself. Thus, a mental vibratory activity is created, through which the great reality knows its infinite images that look wonderful on the cosmic stage. This activity is coming from the periphery toward the center. It is what is called universal mind. All beings lie submerged in the infinite ocean of the universal mind. So we all live within everyone. No one can separate mentally. Heresy of separateness is the worst of heresies. The intellectual activity of the universal mind comes from a centripetal force, and as the whole action is a reaction, the centripetal force, by finding the resistance in the center, reacts and creates a centrifugal activity called cosmic soul. This vibratory cosmic soul turns out to be a mediator between the center and the periphery, between the universal spirit of life and matter, between the great reality and its living images. The great master said the soul is the product of the centrifugal action of the universal activity impelled by the centripetal action of the universal imagination. Terms. Centrifugal force is trying to move away from the center. The force from the center to the periphery. Centripetal force is that it is attracted by the center. Force that flows from the periphery to the center. Every individual can make alma. When we know the technique of internal meditation, when we direct mental power within our own center, the resistance that find will cause a reaction, and the more vigorous the centripetal force we apply, the more vigorous will also be the centrifugal force formed. We manufacture and soul. Thus the soul grows and expands. The strong and robust soul embodies and transforms the physical body, transforms into more subtle and high material to also convert soul. Practice. You learn to use their imagination and will, united in vibrant harmony. Lying in bed or sitting in a comfortable chair, imagine a well-known faraway place, a house, a park, the street, the city, etc. Lull yourself to sleep with that image in your mind. When you find yourself falling asleep with that image in your mind, make that imagination. Forget the place where his body is. Put into play his willpower, and, full of self-confidence, walk the sight imagined. Walk as if you were in the flesh in the place imagined. If the practice is done correctly, you will unfold and your soul will be transported to that place where you are. You can see and hear everything that happens there. Appendix. The physical body is one of the marvelous instruments that man possesses to express themselves. Considering this body from the strictly physical standpoint, it is what we might call a machine, food being fuel. Depending on the type of fuel used, and will work and serve as an instrument, the machine. We often find people who radiate an attitude of joy, happiness, health, optimism, sympathy, love, etc. These people's friendship everyone wins, possess a force of attraction, the magnet irresistible. Others are weak and lack the magnet, wonderful, fail. Then they try to get help from other people, and when they own some business, customers are gradually going. The psychology has found that a person's character depends on its internal state. The character does not develop in the physical body, but is expressed through him, and if the physical body is not in good condition, then our inner state cannot be expressed sufficiently. It is essential that each person be nourished sufficiently. When nutrition is imperfect, weakens, and depleted blood, so cells also weaken. One of the best ways of obtaining complete nutrition with regular food is perfectly chewing delicacies. The delicacies eaten half, they lose much of their nutritional value. Another point of great importance is the irrigation of the body, the proper use of water for the benefit of the organism. The minimum amount of water required daily is 2.5 liters. If water is scarce, cannot work efficiently certain glands, the body well does not eliminate body wastes, liver malfunctions, etc. Vegetarian diet. Most people believe that a meal without meat is incomplete. Nothing is wrong because science has shown that nutrition obtained from vegetables has a greater sustaining power. All animals carry within them the poisons of putrefaction. Venous blood is filled with carbon dioxide and other harmful substances. These harmful and repugnant substances are found everywhere in meat, and when we eat these foods we fill our bodies with these toxins. There is abundant evidence that the carnivorous diet stimulates ferocity. Let us observe the ferocity of the beasts of prey and cruelty of the cannibals and compare it with prodigious strength and docility of cattle, elephant, horse. However, we should not jump to the conclusion that everyone should stop eating meat once and dedicate themselves to eating vegetables. It would be crazy for a person to change his ordinary diet, which has been using for years and that he is adequately nourished. Remove the meat from the diet of ordinary people accustomed to it, significantly undermine your health. The only safe way to proceed is to experiment and study things first. You should be very careful with your nutrition. We do not ask you to leave meat at once, but be forewarned that meat, when consumed in large quantities, e.g. daily, is like poison to the body. Dr. Arnold Krumfeller, professor of medicine at the University of Berlin and great Gnostic doctor, held that man should consume 20% meat between food only. We have found that certain foods such as wheat, egg, avocado, etc., can replace meat. Cereals in general are of great nutritional value. Protein cow's milk is wonderful. Milk soybean is very nutritious and its chemical composition is similar to that of cow's milk. Foods should be used in a balanced way in order to ensure the best nutrition. Avoid eating white bread. White flour is harmful and has no food. Eat black bread, bananas, corn flour instead of white bread and white flour. Eat lots of vegetables. Remember that vegetables are great sources of food. Vitamins are found in vegetables.